given this channel a name prior to this video, so I'm just gonna insert the name here. So yeah, I have been shooting film for about a year now with the Nikon FM3A, and I thought I'll share some thoughts about it. So this camera was released in July of 2001 for a price of $820. I bought mine for about $220. The prices here varies quite a bit on the local market. The mint one usually go for about 7.8 million, and the very mint one go for about 9 million. For about 1 year. I got it with the Nikon 50mm f1.4 pre-AI lens, which had been AI by the seller. So the body is very solid. It's made out of full metal, unlike the digital cameras that I've handled. It's of course heavy. It feels indestructible, you know. I guess that's a good thing. I have dropped this thing on rocks, on the floor, and I've banged it on some surfaces, and it has came out fine. There are a few paint scratches, but you know, it's a film camera, you know, it's vintage and whatever, it's part of the aesthetics. The interesting part of this camera is the shutter speed. It can go up to 1/4000th without a battery, which is very awesome, you know. The battery just powers the internal light meter, which is very handy, and it's quite simple. It's a simple needle, but it is very accurate, and you know, I love it. Instead of just pulling up my phone, I just can read the light meter on the viewfinder. Speaking of that, the viewfinder is very bright. It has a 93% coverage with 0.8 magnification. It comes standard with a K3 focusing screen that has a split image patch in the middle that's akin to a rangefinder, so you can focus very well with wide open lenses. But one thing I missed from digital cameras are the peaking ability. Like, that is super useful whenever you're shooting manual, and just not having it was kind of a shock, but I did get over it. It uses two A76, S76, or a single 1 battery. For this review, I shot 2 rolls, one Portra 400 and Lomochrome Metropolis. They both came out very weird. I did not expect the result to be like that, and that is partly my fault, because when I sent the film to the lab, I accidentally wrote +1 on the Portra. The images on the Portra came out very much contrasted, you know, not really what I had in mind, but at least it is usable. unlike the Metropolis, which is just orange. But since those two roles are a failure, I will be showing my previous role, which are much better. So shooting with a film camera was quite a different experience. I mean, I have been accustomed to shooting manually, like fully manually with manual exposure and focusing on some of my digital cameras, but having it like not having the option to just go auto, I mean aperture priority mode, but since my lens doesn't have a aperture indexing thingy, it you have to like press the DOV lever to preview the exposure, which is annoying. So I usually just go fully manual. It was very much a different experience, and I can finally get why people choose to shoot film. It's a very mechanical thing, you know, you're very much a part of the camera. There's no extra, it's just very on point, to the point. With the handling, it is very good. I have big hands, and even though it's a flat body, there's no grip to speak of. It is very much still a tight grip. I can still grip the lens mount, and I still feel comfortable. I don't shoot it often because while I do pursue that aesthetic, I actually went for film just because I wanted to have like a full frame look. Like 35mm film have a same area as full frame, so I thought that, you know, why not just go film? And it was a much more difficult transition than I thought. There's a self timer on the camera, which is handy if you want to do group photos or maybe a selfie, maybe if you can guess the range between you and the camera. One of the most useful features on the camera is a exposure lock button. So when you meter in a very contrast heavy scenario, you can point the camera at a mid-tone and lock the exposure, and then you can shoot, which is very awesome. Overall, over 1 year, it has been a very loyal camera to me. It's solidly built, it's reliable, you know, the lens too, it's all just metal, and I've made quite some memories on it. The aesthetic is definitely unique. It's not something you can find on any digital cameras, no matter how much you edit it. It is full of trial and error. I messed up my first roll immediately because I didn't load it correctly, so it did not advance, and so on and so forth. I have to learn how to meter correctly. Like olive and manual focusing was again very different and much more difficult than on any digital cameras. Yeah, it's quite the journey with this camera.